welcome everybody to our sixth session on the Enneagram. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up, um, or just let me know if you can't. Aubrey's on it. Awesome. Okay, well, I am glad to be here with you. If this is your first time joining us, after today, all six of these sessions will be available on our YouTube channel. And I'm happy to send anything to anybody to catch up. They'll just shoot me an email. My information should be in your email if you registered for this. But today we're going to kind of close it out to talk about what do we do with the information we've gained over the last 5 weeks. And so we're going to start with a Slido question. And if you've not been a part of the series regularly, then you can just say how the Enneagram has changed your approach or confirm something for you as a leader if you're familiar with the Enneagram. So in one sentence, what has this series changed or confirmed for you as a leader? I will say if you've not done Slidos before, there is no space if you go to the website between the 2 and the 8. Okay, working on being less angry, change your understanding, good. Yeah, I think one of the things we've explored is that anger is not always a bad thing, but it is when you don't want to be angry and you're angry. Help me to inform me how folks show up and experience the world. Helps in leadership to be more empathetic or empathic, emphatic. Um, confirm that I'm complicated. Yeah. Whitman says we all contain multitudes. What drives us doesn't change much. Yeah, we are who we are. Took the Enneagram questionnaire 16 years ago. Top number is the same. I would totally agree with that. I've been a 5 my whole life. I just didn't know it as well until later. That's great. That's great. Well, one of the things I want to talk about today is how this affects the way we lead and the cultures that we are in. And one of the things I want to talk about is what do we do with our number? Let's just start with ourselves. My wife and I, who is also an Enneagram aficionado, were talking this weekend about one of the temptations when we do a typology of any kind is to use it to limit the things that we think are unlovely about ourselves, unlikable, etc. I think that's not the best way to go about it. I think that I hope you've heard me say over and over again, there are no bad numbers. There are things that are shadow sides and gift sides, or wounds and gifts, but there is not a bad way to approach the world. And the world is a better place with all of the numbers together. And so the goal of knowing who we are, of any tool or system of self-awareness, is not to then shut down parts of ourselves, but I think it's to healthily expand into who we are. And so often we get messages that we're being too much, or we're too this, or we're too that. And that's typically not coming to us from people who are in a healthy space themselves. And so I just want to reiterate that it is, you cannot give understanding to people if you do not understand yourself. And understanding really is about acceptance. You accept who you are, um, and you grow into that, not shrink away from it. And I think that's an important distinction in the way we approach our work. It is important to note that if you are a leader, or you are on a team, or you have a family, or you have friends, that whatever it is, the way you experience the world, and someone said this earlier in the Slido, is that we all experience the world in different ways. And the Enneagram is a part of the way we experience the world. It's our default way we do it. But that's it. It's our default culture. The way we view the world is not the same as everyone else. And so we're hoping to continue to grow beyond this course in our awareness of kind of our default of the way we experience the world. Because, and again, I don't want us to shrink away from who we are. I just want us to be aware. It's the blind spots that are dangerous. Just like driving a car, blind spots are where the problems lurk. And being self-aware is, I want to amend that. It is a service to your team. It's not navel gazing, but I want to just say it's okay to spend a little time navel gazing. You are worth knowing yourself. One of the things that I'm aware of is the way we're culturalized to always want to put others above ourselves. And it's great. We should serve. We shouldn't be narcissists. There's a reason, there's a story about how that's bad. But at the same time, really getting to know yourself is a worthwhile goal in and of itself. And in my experience working with people across a variety of tools, but particularly around the Enneagram, that self-awareness, even if it is just to be self-aware, does have dividends for those around us. I want to dig a little deeper into that first question about how have you recognized these things. And just in the Zoom chat, if you could answer this question, based on what you know about your Enneagram type now, what you've learned through this or other means, what's a pattern in the way that you lead that you now recognize as part of your default culture, as a part of your Enneagram type? And maybe it's not leading in a team, maybe it is about the way you show up for your team. What is something that you can look back in the last few months or years and say, hey, this is a pattern that shows up because of where I stand in the Enneagram? Marina, yeah, can't help speaking for fairness. Good. I want to have a good time while working. Yeah. Justine, I'm just going to say, maybe it is a lot for others, but on the other hand, sometimes you got to do your thing that brings your fullness to the workplace. Um, I like the phrase, somebody's driving me crazy, but I also recognize that I get to pick where people drive me. That's on me. For me, I know, I'm not typing it in here, but for me, I know that like one of the patterns that I've brought to every role I've ever had, both professional and personal, is I am full of questions. I just have questions about everything. And it really borders a lot for me between curiosity and nosiness. Yeah. Yeah, Danae, obstacles. Anticipate obstacles bring to the conversation. Good. Yeah, these are gifts. These are gifts. We, we work in the Office of Leader and Culture and Development, and recommend professional development opportunities to strengthen the team. Yeah, that's great, Danae. Aubrey, want to mediate and find peace around me and in for others. Yeah, we all need some peacemakers. Too many people are pugilistic. That's fantastic. You know, uh, there's a phrase that I'm missing it right now, but basically, culture eats rules or expectations for breakfast. We work in the office at the system. Um, Claudia, great. I need to recognize when my standard is not my team's standard. Yeah, in the Office of Leader and Culture Development, we're really intentional about the name cap because we recognize that, first of all, we're not here to talk about leadership theories. We're going to use different leadership approaches and tools. Our end goal is that we are interested in developing and growing leaders as people, which is why we do webinars, why we do on-campus things at El Paso and TTU and MSU and ASU. It affects all of our programming. But the other piece of that, of culture development, is that it is true. You can create all the new rules, regulations, standard operating procedures, etc. If culture is unexamined and unformed, none of it works. Culture um, eats eats everything else because it is this great status quo gravitational pull. On the other hand, culture is what you allow. And so I want to talk about how do we create a healthy culture in our teams, whether we are the leader of a team or just within that team. How do we create a healthy culture with the Enneagram in mind? And so one of the things we do is that all three centers are valued. We learn to engage all three centers, maybe what their giftedness is, but just to value. So head center is really great at planning, whether that's seeing the pitfalls, whether it's asking all the questions, whether it is even knowing how to make something enjoyable and therefore something people want to do. The heart is so good at knowing how is this going to affect people? How is this going to connect to other people on the team? And the body is really that center that is so good at engaging and moving into action, taking what has been thought through, what has been felt through, and making sure it becomes embodied, it becomes action. We create cultures that are not silos of our own center, but have space with intentionality to include all three gifts, all three major gifts from these centers. The other thing we do is that we name stress. We don't just manage it. A lot of us have stress management techniques, whether it's like, I'm sitting at Jason's desk right now, but whether it's like a little squeezy ball, or which is, a healthier stress type, release technique. We've been taught to manage stress, but sometimes the healthiest thing we can do is just name it and own it. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't finish that because I was stressed. I didn't do that because I'm in a stressful space. If we look at what we talked about last week in terms of where we move under stress, when we start to gain that self-awareness, we can just name it for others. The final thing is we really want to embrace a growth mindset. Great growth is possible and expected. So often, one of the pitfalls we fall into in life is expecting people to always be who they are. And that becomes limiting to ourselves and to others. So we want to create cultures and participate in cultures where we are really, it's not even pushing, but holding space for people to grow. I think if you are growing in self-awareness in the Enneagram, you know where you're standing from, you know what your default is, then you can be a big part of creating a culture where every center is valued, where everyone is open to talk about when they fail, when they move into that stress space, and also where we hold space for one another to grow. I think one of the best examples of that is around familial relationships, just being able to hold that space. You know, if you are a parent, one of the tricks of parenting is allowing your children to become who they are going to be and not holding them to who you thought they would be or who you wanted them to be, but to really to love someone as who they are, not as who you expect them to be. And it works on both ends of the spectrum. If you are an adult with your parents still alive, you know that even when your parents get into their 70s and 80s, they're still people who are capable of change and growth. And so to not pigeonhole people, but to let them grow is such a mark of healthy culture. And it does mean that we have to let people fail, but the positive side of that is the growth. Any questions anybody has about these three markers of healthy culture that are based in our understanding of ourselves within the Enneagram? Don't take, wow, Joseph, that's great. Don't take people for granted, as in they're stuck in stone. Well played. Okay, well, I want to then spend a little bit of time talking about how we communicate um, within the Enneagram, within these centers. And then we're going to do a Slido, and then we're going to talk very quickly about each individual number, just kind of a recap of how we might most effectively work with them in a team. So if we want to communicate well, if we are valuing everyone in our culture and creating those kinds of cultures, then when we communicate, this is the best, some best practices for communicating across the centers. When we're communicating with people in the heart center, our 2s, 3s, and 4s, it is so important that they feel seen and valued before they can hear any sort of content. Acknowledgement, it matters a lot. So we lead with connection. It is all about the interpersonal. For head centers, we would really like to have some context. We would like to know, I was joking with someone from Midwestern state earlier today. There is a book on my desk that's like the history of Midwestern state. And it's like super thick, and some of you may have contributed to it. I don't know. It's super thick and tiny writing, tiny font size. And we were talking about when you come into an institution, though, those kinds of documents are very helpful because they provide the context of what's gone on before. People may not need a 100-year history lesson in the head center, but it is helpful if you're dealing with people in the head center, if you are leading them or working on a team with them, if you will explain how you got to where you are in terms of direction, what your thinking is, it goes a long way into helping us in the head center feel valued, seen, and ready to contribute. And finally, in the body, if you're communicating with people in the body, you need to be direct. That's true for 8s, 9s, and 1s. They need less diplomacy. I'm not saying be mean, but Kindness can be very direct. Yeah, Ivanka, that's great. Diplomacy confuses me. I don't know what to do with the extra fluff. Tell it to me real, and I can figure out how to adapt. Um, yeah, in the real is one of my favorite phrases. We talk about meeting people online or in person in the real, and that's the right energy. Like this is really what's happening. Let's get direct. This is it doesn't have to be negative or angry, but it's just here's what's happening. Thank you, Ivanka, for sharing that for someone in the body, and Elizabeth, appreciate that. So let me ask you a question before we go into the specific types and how that changes a little bit. And that is in your current team that you're a part of, what center is most undervalued on your current team? Heads, body? There's too much diplomacy. We need to get to it. Yeah. It's interesting that body and heads are on here. Everyone tippy toes too much. Yeah, it's really interesting as I'm watching this pop up and be weighted by size that, you know, we don't see any heart center popping up on here yet. Maybe we were just waiting for the emoji. I would say what's interesting about that is that uh, you notice all three types are represented there. Um, yeah, Aubrey, that's right. Yeah, we some people, uh, Aubrey said in the chat, if you don't have it pulled up, we struggle sometimes to find the balance between being direct and being respectful. Absolutely, absolutely. It is it's good to respect everyone just because they're a person. And yet we know people need directness and things function better with directness. But we don't really have a framework that we have adapted in professional life that really embraces kindness. And by kindness, I mean it doesn't have to be fluffy. It can be very direct and yet still value people with respect. We've often mistaken niceness as the only way to move forward. And niceness is, you know, I think overrated. I mean, I don't want people to be mean to me, so don't like fire off a bunch of mean things, but like niceness often has an undercurrent of manipulation or untruth. Yeah, nice is not always kind. I think we need to strive for kindness, which is finding that, yeah, please send me the form. Please, would you send me the form? Yeah, please send me the form. That seems fine. Please, would you send me the form? That's also okay. I mean, Charlotte, which of those do you prefer? Or anybody? If somebody asked you for a form, the TPS report, would it be please send me the TPS report, or would it be please would you send me the TPS report? English language is so fascinating. Hey, send that TSP. But hey, you got to please. Uh, the statement often receives a saluting emoji. Oh, would you please send me? Yeah, the would implies some agency on the end of the other. I think emoji have given us a whole vocabulary of passive aggressiveness, which I thoroughly enjoy. Please shows up in all of those. Um, I had a person, oh, it's like, Charlotte, you're playing Jeopardy with your team. That's great. It cannot be responded to unless it is stated as a question. A bunch of Alex Trebek's on there. Um, yeah, I think the big thing there is even what Charlotte's saying here, that it's knowing something about your team. It's an expectation. And if you are wanting to shift away from a certain expectation, that culture shift takes a bunch of time. I was required to take an etiquette course because my emails were hostile. Oh, yeah. I did that year in HR, and compared to two employees who I thought were going to have a fist fight in a waiting room, I don't think an email hostility. You know, this is funny. We could probably do a whole webinar on emails. Email is hard. It takes way too long to write emails, in my opinion. I find them to be probably the hardest piece of writing. I think it's a lot easier to create content, um, to write speeches, to write something to be in front of people, because email is like very difficult for me to get right. I think email is hard. And there's a question in the survey about what else we might do with the Enneagram at some point. I wonder if there's an email in the Enneagram. I can chase that down along with the generational differences I'm still working on. No, that's great. I appreciate that feedback on that, and agree that email, it's rough. Okay, let's go briefly. I'm going to go really quickly through this next thing, just so we have time for the end. But I also wanted to put the slides in here to make sure we went through it, and they're going to come up in the PDF that I send to you. You can take more time with them. Ones, they need clear standards. They need to not be criticized publicly. We have an intake in our office about how do you want to receive praise? How do you want to receive criticism? Some people do not mind being criticized in front of others. It's fine. They just don't mind it. For ones on your team, if you are one, you can tell your team, hey, just I don't expect to get it perfect, but tell me privately when I need to make some corrections. Ones, you raise the bar. You keep teams moving forward and accountable. And if you are one, really figuring out where good enough is for any project is something to spend some time practicing naming. Our twos really need to be appreciated as whole people, not for their function. Do not take them for granted or granted. Don't take them for either one. The best way to really help a two grow is to help them know what they need. They are often focused on the needs of others. And if you can help them identify their own wants and needs, it goes a long way to helping twos grow. And if you are a two, it's the same thing. Learning to name what your needs are and to receive is important. But on teams, twos, now you are relational fabric. You are glue that's holding people together. So thank you for that. Our threes, just make sure they know they're competent. Set clear goals that they can achieve. They are the achievers. Also help them move into themselves by moving them beyond that achievement. If you're a three, just really getting to know who you are, apart from performance, is a key area of more expansively living. And then as a team member, man, they're just helping us get across the goal line. It's very important, very fantastic. Fours, uh, don't forget to celebrate their uniqueness. That can be simple, like, hey, I noticed you wear a lot of leopard print. That's awesome. I don't know. Maybe don't comment about what people are wearing. So that's always a tricky one. Figure out ways that are HR appropriate to notice their uniqueness. Do not avoid emotions with them, but also help them transition. If you're a four, moving from form to function is really important. And again, I love fours, just that artistry and realizing that things can be beautiful and full of meaning is the space there. For us fives, give us some time to think and embrace that. We don't love impromptu. And I just speaking for myself, I function best if you can just kind of bring me into your thinking. If I can think alongside you, I'm very comfortable with uncertainty, but I just like to know how we are getting to where we are. As a five, I need to be encouraged to let people in before I've arrived at a conclusion to bring people along with myself. And I'll also say as a five, like helping me move from thinking to action is a real help for fives. But we also typically have read a lot about whatever the project is we're on it. Loyalists, our meerkats, our sixes, be very consistent, very clear. Don't surprise them. These are people who are really good at seeing pitfalls, but don't love the surprise, ditch in the middle of the road. They are so good at seeing what can go wrong and helping to avoid that. And one of the ways we grow as sixes is we need to understand when doubt is serving and when it is preventing from growth. So as a leader or a person on a team of six, it's fine to doubt. It's fine to do that. But when does it become a compulsion is an important question. Our enthusiasts, they do want to enjoy, connecting and enjoying life. They do not love to be micromanaged. So don't over process them, but also help them get across the goalpost. So you can see how it works really well when you have a 7 and a 3 together who really wants to make sure something gets done, and a 7 wants to make sure that it's enjoyable and invitational. That works really well together on a team. They are energizers. They bring a lot of joy, and you'll notice people don't love it when they're not having fun. So there's something to be said for enjoying what we do. Eights, man, be direct, give them respect, give them space to lead. Do not soft pedal. I think we covered that in the meeting chat. No fluff. It's not unkind. It's not rude. It's not puffed up. It's just do not manage eights. Like, don't try to handle eights. Just give them what they need, give them feedback. And then in that process of building relationship, it helps them to embrace the softness of that strength. If you are an 8, a great way to move forward is to practice asking questions instead of declarative sentences, and then see how that helps the whole room kind of get on board with what you're already thinking. And finally, our 9s, our peacemakers, it's helpful to bring them into the conversation, to consistently. Sometimes they will not share because they want to keep peace, but to really bring them in. Do not roll over their voices. Don't steamroll them. Don't treat silence as agreement. Nines hold a lot of space for growth of all parties. And so we love having them to diffuse tension, but they are still in that body space. And so helping to be direct and helping them lean into directness is a great way to be around and grow with nines. If you have any questions about any of that, either speak up or put it in the chat and I'll get to it in a second. I want to talk about what do we do now. And so if you want to continue to grow in this, I think there's a way we can bring what we've learned together to our teams and to continue to deepen it within ourselves. The first is to keep a pattern journal. Journaling is a great habit. There was an article that got shared in our team last week out of the Harvard Business Review about why leadership development fails. And it is, I would say, the space between formation or education and formation. Education is telling you information. Formation is helping us to become changed people. And that's a bunch of internal work. Journaling is one of the ways we internalize what we're learning. I am super digital. I dream of a paperless office because I have horizontal surface disease and I just leave stuff everywhere. At the same time, I know that physically journaling is so helpful to help me slow down and really internalize what's going on in my life. If you can keep a journal about the patterns you see in your own life and those around you, it can help you to take what we've been learning and really put it to work in the world. If you are a leader, asking your team what they need is just a great question. You notice the difference here is not what do you need from me? Just what do you need? Is a great way to create a culture where people start to identify their own drives. If you are really digging into the Enneagram and you are in a group where you're practicing this as a team, I've done this with a couple of departments. It can be really helpful if you're around a bunch of Enneagram nerds to say, hey, this is who I am. And it becomes a shorthand of this is my center. And it helps to nuance and color what you're saying and the way it's received. That takes kind of some community knowledge. A generally good habit, going back to what we asked earlier about which centers get avoided or underrepresented in your teams, is simply rotating who speaks first in meetings. You may be in charge. That doesn't mean you have to speak first or last. If you are secure in your leadership, then you can rotate that, and that's really going to help to make sure that these different centers are being represented. So let me ask you a question. Out of those 4 practices, which would make the biggest difference if you started it today? Identifying the center at the beginning of meetings. Great. Thanks, Danae. Asking what people need. Yeah. Justine, that's great. I would love a meeting where we all get to share and not just listen. Yeah. I'm leading a professional development for our building on Thursday that is about that, about how do we learn to listen to the voices that are often underrepresented, and why would we want to do that? That's fantastic. I would imagine that if you use these practices, I would be really curious in a long-term sense of how they shift your team, of how they change things for you at work. Yeah, I would love to hear. If you do it and you get some, send me an email, give me a call, shoot me a text, let me know how does that work. All right. Our types are not an excuse to behave poorly. It's not a label. We come through all of this knowing our pattern. So we move forward in that. It's not permission to just be stuck. That's not acting with a real self-awareness. Just to reiterate, it's not a hierarchy. A 1 is not better than a 9. A 5 is not better than a 6. And all of this, even spending 6 weeks together talking about this, is not the end. This is all introduction. It's all overview. The real work of change is interior, and it's slow, and it is formation and not education. You were not put on this earth to be your type. You were put here to be transformed, and I would say to be an agent of transformation. The type is just the particular shape of that invitation. That's why we do what we do. We believe, I believe that everyone is capable of growing into their best selves. So one more Slido. Let me ask you, because of this series, I will, you finish that sentence. Reflect more on concepts and bring it to my understanding of myself and those around me. Learn what my team needs in communication of departmental goals. Good. Try to recognize people's strengths and weaknesses and help set them up for success. Yeah, be attentive to how I and others affect the room and the team. Implement the practices. Great. Great. Sharing intro to the Enneagram and training series in former department and current department, and rewatching it myself. Fantastic. And I don't know who said that, but if I can be helpful, if you need something tailored to that, let me know. I'm happy to be in that conversation or just not, besides what we've already done together. That's great. I want to give you a few resources to move forward. These are non-exhaustive. But if you are interested in digging deeper, here's 3 books, a couple of podcasts, and a website. The first is The Enneagram, A Christian Perspective. I will say if you are not, don't identify as religiously Christian, it's still a super helpful book about the history of the Enneagram. And as I've said from the beginning, Roar has been instrumental to my approach. The Road Back to You is much shorter, by Crone and Stabile. And then The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Riso and Hudson, who are the founders of the Enneagram Institute, is also very helpful. There's a couple of podcasts there. And then finally, Richard Rohr's ongoing work is through the Center for Action and Contemplation, and that's cac.org. There's a lot of resources. And I will say it's kind of like the Enneagram numbers. It's not that any are better than others, but some of them will resonate more with you than others. So try them out, and I'm happy to continue to be a part of that conversation. I want to say thank you. I don't think the Enneagram's magic, but I told you from the beginning, I think it has been life-changing for me. It has saved a lot of relationships. It has helped me grow and continues to help me grow. And I think self-awareness is so needed in leadership now. So I am deeply thankful for you joining for these 6 weeks. I will say that while I will be offering some webinars in July and August, they will not be around this stuff. But starting in the fall, I'm going to come back to some of these topics, and we're going to explore how do we move as an individual between the centers and tap into those other parts of ourselves. So I'll send an invitation to any of y'all who want to be a part of that in the fall. And then finally, I'll ask you to take one more stab at the survey. And this week's survey is a little different. It's about the whole series, and it will help me understand how to pace something like this in the future. And it will also help me know what we might want to explore together in the future. It has been a lot of fun to do this together. And if any of us can do anything for you from my office, we'll be super happy to do it. So thank y'all for being a part of this. And yeah, I'll see you wherever I see you.